Hello, this is Encounters with Life. I'm Sean Abigail, your host. Today, I want to share with you some financial lessons that I learned from my dad. My dad taught me some basic skills in the finance world, and they stuck with me and they have served me well over the years. Now, maybe your dad didn't teach you these things. Maybe your dad did not have the skills with finances to be able to share them with you, or maybe your dad just wasn't in the picture. Whatever the reason, today I'm going to share with you some of the financial lessons I learned from my dad, and so you can learn from my dad too. First lesson was pay off the mortgage. So I remember years ago, people used to, if they had a few $1,000s, they could make it available for a private mortgage. Now everybody just goes to the bank. But back then, people would make available money for private mortgages. And my dad had not a huge amount of money, but he had some money and he put it up for private mortgages. And I remember we went out for supper one night, and instead of driving straight home, we were driving over to this man's house because he had made his last mortgage payment, and my dad wanted to give him the papers saying that it was all done. And I was feeling car sick. I was a kid. I was not too happy. I just wanted Dad to go straight home. Dad, can't you do it tomorrow? And my dad, he was a bit of a cream puff, but that night he certainly had a serious side, and he said, "Sean, this man has been paying off his mortgage his whole life. He has now got it paid off, and tonight I am giving him those papers." So, like I said, I wasn't too happy about it all, but it was a very, very powerful lesson. Well, Dad lived out this message, and he paid off his mortgage as quick as he could. And as a result, one time when interest rates went crazy, Dad had his mortgage paid off. And so we weren't worrying about losing our house the way everyone else that we knew was worried. Now, how have I lived this out in my life? Well, when I bought the house that we're in currently, I set up the mortgage with the bank, and I said, okay, I want an accelerated payment plan. And they said, okay, we can do that. And then I said, I want to put an extra $100 per paycheck into the mortgage. And they said, we can do that. And the net effect was I ended up paying off my house years early and saved $120,000 in interest payments. $120,000 that stayed in my bank account and did not go over to the bank's bottom line. So, hugely important. Now, maybe you're saying, Sean, things have changed a little bit. It's really tough to buy a house. I know it is. Things are crazy tough. I wish it was otherwise. And I'd love to see some of our political leaders stand up and say, this is how we're going to make it easier for people to buy their house, to pay off their house. But if you can, ratchet back your lifestyle a little bit, put an extra $100 a paycheck onto your mortgage, and it will make all the difference. So that's the first lesson that my dad taught me. Pay off your mortgage. Second lesson, and I can remember him saying this to me, just because you have money in the bank doesn't mean you can afford something. And a lot of people see the money that they've got in their bank account, and they just have to spend it. They don't want to think too hard about where that money has to go and that they need to keep money aside for certain things. They just have to spend it. And that's where the lesson that my dad taught me came in, because I have always remembered that just because I have a decent balance in my bank account doesn't mean that I can afford to go out and buy whatever I want. And that's where my policy of having different buckets. So in Quicken, I have one bank account, but I have in Quicken multiple buckets where I transfer money into where they're needed. So if I know that I'm going to have to pay off my property taxes, I put some money aside every paycheck for property taxes. And that's where these buckets are very useful. So, second lesson from my dad, just because you've got money in the bank doesn't mean you can afford something. Third lesson from my dad, control your wants. Now, I remember Dad one time test driving a black Audi, and it was a really nice car, but he didn't end up buying it. He ended up buying a less expensive car. And I also remember one time Dad looking at an $80,000 house back when that bought a lot of house. In fact, the house had a small indoor swimming pool. Wow, it It blew my mind that he was thinking about that. But you know what? He ended up buying a $49,000 house, a much smaller house, much more conservative house, but he ended up paying off that mortgage quickly. And now, looking back, I realize that my dad had all the same wants as the rest of us, but he had learned to control his wants. And so that's the third lesson that my dad taught me and that I want to share with you. Control your wants. Last lesson is manage your risks. So when I was in university, many moons ago, back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, I remember coming home from class and turning on the TV, and they were talking about Black Monday. And people still remember Black Monday from the stock market. I think the stock market lost something like a third of its value in one day. Just a awful kind of thing that happened. And that night, I remember phoning my dad and saying, "Okay, Dad, can we afford for me to stay in university?" And he said, "No problem. Don't worry about it, Sean. You can stay in university." It was a very difficult financial time for many people, but Dad had managed his risks carefully. The money that he had in stock market, in other investments, GICs, and so on, he was very carefully managing his risks. And as a result, we came out of it okay, and I was able to stay in university. Well, those are some lessons that my dad taught me, and very valuable lessons. Now I have a favor to ask of you. Can you please like and subscribe to my channel? Like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you could press that notification button, because that way you'll get notified anytime I drop a new video. I'm Sean Abigail. That's Encounters with Life. Thank you.